Anyone want to sing? Anyone?
One of these hits.
Anyone?
Cyrano.
Is it what? Have you ever loved somebody that you've always
Barely breathe.
wanted?
That's the only part I remember. Barely breathe.
Yeah, well, we really nailed that intro. Welcome back to another episode of Showgays, a movie musical past test, in which we discuss a musical pastiche in which we talk about movie musicals. This week we will be going head to head on Cyrano 2021.
Are we going head to head?
It's good.
Okay.
Before we get there though, Molly, it's been a couple weeks. I just want to check in. Any mailbox letters?
No mailbox. No, everybody write in with your thoughts about, I don't know, the upcoming election or just anything you're feeling.
Don't write in
really
thoughts about that. I don't want to hear those. I am not interested in anyone's thoughts on the election.
Well, that's kind of actually how I'm approaching it as well. I'm at a minimal information standard because truly what could happen that would change the way I'm going to vote at this point.
We're really in the worst timeline. But how are you personally, Molly? And then we'll talk about you professionally, obviously, as we always check in.
Yes, we have to.
Yeah. I'm doing very well personally. I went to a Wave game on Saturday. It was their home opener. Unfortunately, they lost, but I'm excited
which is
the Wave is the women's professional soccer team in San Diego. Okay. And if you were a feminist, you would know that. Yeah.
As this podcast has explained.
Yeah.
Can't even explain it. So
yeah,
it's true.
He still doesn't know how it works.
RJ, any women's soccer games in your life going on?
No, I'm trying to think what the closest athletic
so you don't support women?
Not
Chicago
recently.
has a team, by the way, the Red Stars. They're not very good, but maybe if they had more support at home,
maybe they'll be better.
They could attract some bigger players.
I mean, I'm equal opportunity, honey. I support all teams equally in that I don't support any of the teams.
So there you go.
So there we go.
Fair enough.
You can't beat that logic. I'm good. We celebrated Adam's birthday last Friday by going to a K-pop concert.
Happy belated
Actually, we celebrated it by watching This Is Me Now again. That's how we celebrated.
Wow.
Bro, wait. Oh my God. J-Lo is coming to the Allstate Arena in July in the This Is Me Now concert live on stage.
You could go.
Listeners.
I think we all three should go.
Oh, okay. I'll be
and you know what?
I
think we should invite Nan and Rita. I think they would have
a
trip.
What a trip that would be.
Let's get Joy in here too. Why the hell not?
Oh my God, my mom will live.
Honestly, of the three moms, I think Joy would enjoy a Jennifer Lopez concert the most. That's my guess. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
However, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to discuss our moving lives. We're here to really get into the nitty gritty of movie musicals and poetry of the Flag Factory. So this week, Molly, you had the task to summarize the plot of 2021 Cyrano, and your time starts now.
The beautiful and language-loving Roxanne allows the Duc de Guiche to take her to the theater, where she falls in love at first sight with a newly recruited soldier named Christian. The play is interrupted by the poetic protestations of Roxanne's childhood friend, the little person Cyrano de Bergerac. The next day, Roxanne confesses her love for Christian to Cyrano, who is crushed that Roxanne does not love him. Cyrano meets Christian, who reveals he loves Roxanne but is inarticulate, so Cyrano agrees to write letters on Christian's behalf. Roxanne falls in love through the letters, but every time Christian tries to speak to her directly, she's disappointed. Eventually, the Duke threatens that he plans to sexually assault Roxanne, and she can choose only whether they are married first. Roxanne tricks the priest into marrying her to Christian before she can marry the Duke. When the Duke discovers them, he sends both Christian and Cyrano immediately to the war front. Christian finds a tear on the goodbye letter Cyrano has written to Roxanne on his behalf, realizes Cyrano's feelings for her, insists Cyrano must tell her the truth, and runs into harm's way in battle and dies. 3 years later, Cyrano finally confesses his love and the truth of his letters to Roxanne with his dying breath, and she confirms that she loves him before he dies.
Wow.
And that's just over a minute, but very succinctly put.
Thank you.
I truly feel like I watched the whole movie listening to that. That was very apt.
Thanks.
I was confused for a second because we were talking about a nefarious Duke and a love interest named Christian. So I thought we were talking about Moulin Rouge again. I got so confused.
Did you have a moment of thinking that the guy who plays the actor that Cyrano is dissing in the theater scene, that I thought it was Ziegler for a second.
Yes, I did too.
I did some internet sleuthing to figure it out, but I don't think it was him. But he was doing exactly the voice.
So much like Ziegler.
Yeah, and he had the curly wig and
Yeah. this is now in this season of Showgays. Mm-hmm. This, I believe, is our 5th musical set in France. We did not do this on purpose. I want to be very clear.
Yeah. Also, I wrote the Duke's name and didn't give any thought to how he actually says the name, and I just fully guessed. De Guiche. That's what I should have said.
Yeah, and I believe it's pronounced protestations, not protestations.
I think that's a regionalism. I think they're both correct.
Oh, well, we're from the same region, so I think
I don't know. I don't know about that.
And I believe it's pronounced Croissant.
Molly, since you went and you told us all about it, do you have any relationship to this musical or even movie musical either?
Or even just movie musicals in general. I had seen some ads for this, but didn't watch it at the time. I think they had already started Showgays when it first came out, and I kind of was like, oh, I'll probably watch that for the podcast eventually. So I wasn't that motivated to watch it on my own. And actually, though, really, I saw a musical version of Cyrano de Bergerac, not this though, in Minnesota in 2015. I think there was like a theater company there that did it, but it was a very operatic kind of style of singing. So it was very clearly, I don't think, related to this production. And it was pretty good, but it was one of those, like, I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but it kind of didn't leave a strong impression on me type of shows. But clearly there was something in the air of, hey, this is ripe for the making of a musical that existed. So that was my relationship to sort of like this story and the idea of a musical Cyrano.
RJ?
I do not. I had to ask Adam.
I've heard of it though.
I had to ask Adam while in the middle of watching. I was like, "This isn't a Cyrano. This is not a Shakespeare." And he was like, "No, he was a guy." And I was like, "Oh." And I think I was just confusing it to the many Shakespeare plays with names on them that I was like, clearly Cyrano is the name. I think I was thinking of Cymbeline.
So you didn't have the idea of what Cyrano de Bergerac already is in like the back of your head, because I just knew
that he had a big nose.
Yeah,
that was all I knew.
I did also watch Roxanne, which was like a Steve Martin romantic comedy. I was about to bring this up.
Yes, it was 87. Yes.
So I knew I watched that when I was in high school. So I knew the story of Cyrano through that adaptation. Yeah.
Okay. Steve Martin and Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. And I have to now apologize to my boyfriend in my head, because when I was texting him and telling him that we were going to watch this, and I was like, oh, we're watching Cyrano, and he said he didn't know it. And I was like, well, it's Cyrano de Bergerac. And then he was like, what? Again. And I was like, this uncultured swine. I can't believe that he didn't know. But I guess if RJ also wasn't familiar with the story already, I got to give him a little more grace.
I knew I had recognized the name. I knew that he was like someone that had a big nose, and it's like he was like ugly, but he was like he was in love, and was trying to get over like his looks or whatever.
Okay, that is the level of knowledge that I expect all people to have. So actually, you were at where I think baseline should be of Cyrano. But
I can't tell you
where. Thank you for calling me baseline.
I couldn't tell you where I picked it up. I want to say there was a Family Guy bit where they showed a Cyrano.
Oh, I feel like it's a cultural osmosis. Like, I don't know. It would be like somebody being like, what's the Count of Monte Cristo? Like, I don't think you've read the novel, but you should like know it's like a story about revenge.
No clue. I get Cyrano for some reason and Nostradamus confused, and I think it's only because nose.
Cyrano.
I think that's the only reason.
That's okay, wow.
Because I'm like, oh, the guy who has a big nose is probably the guy named Nostradamus. Is that it?
God.
No,
the brain is a funny thing.
That is the
it's
same
just free association. In my
the same energy as saying, oh, A Tale of Two Cities is about St. Paul and Minneapolis.
Should be.
It's a novel about.
Why not? Write it, Molly.
What about you, Adam?
Our friend Robbie, who we've talked about on this podcast, he highly recommended this movie the year it came out. He had seen it in theaters. I keep saying 2021. I want to clarify. I can get in a second, but the movie came out. It premiered at the Telluride Film Festival in 2021, but it did not get released wide to the public until 2022.
Okay.
So there's kind of I would take either one, but yes, by the time it was released wide, we were recording this podcast. So, and we said, who cares about Cyrano?
I want to say we were picking.
I know we talked about it because we had a conversation. I think around the time of the Academy Awards because they got nominated for Best Costumes, and we were like We knew it was a musical, but I think we were all like, but is it enough of a musical? Because you couldn't really tell from trailers or anything. So,
and we opted to go for like the Tick Tick Boom, which was I think we picked some other
new releases in place of Cyrano. Yeah.
Other than that, nothing. I got nothing. I'd also seen Roxanne like as a kid, but I didn't even remember really
the connection
much of it. I just.
But did you know Cyrano de Bergerac? You knew of the story. In some capacity.
Sure. Let's say I did, because I also want to be baseline like RJ.
Yeah.
So
I think if you watched Roxanne, you have the baseline of maybe you wouldn't have known the name, but you know that there's like a trope story that exists about a guy with a big nose and the writing the
Did Steve Martin have prosthesis?
Using
Did he have
the
a
word.
big nose?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
RJ, do you want to look at the trailer on silent really quick?
Sure.
Roxanne trailer.
You don't have to put on the red light.
Roxanne is one of those names where it's like, this name doesn't feel this like it should be from this time period.
Oh, yeah.
You know
It feels so modern. 80s.
You know what name I just learned about is also really old? Really old?
What?
Tiffany.
Really?
There are like reports of like it from the 1500s of people being named Tiffany.
I would not have ever guessed that.
Isn't that wild? Because it's
wild.
such a 1980s name. Molly is going to take us on a tour of the history of Cyrano de Bergerac.
A brief history of Cyrano de Bergerac. So the play Cyrano de Bergerac, which is really the origin of this being kind of a trope that's been reused. Mm-hmm. There was also like maybe you're going to talk about this, but like they somewhat recently made one with the girl who played Barb in Stranger Things that was like, Sierra Borges or something, and she's writing letters and stuff. So like this has been a reused trope a lot since this play made it famous, of person who is somehow physically not as attractive wooing somebody through words, kind of an idea. Mm-hmm. So the play was first performed in 1897. It was a verse drama, so I think that the whole thing is probably maybe not rhyming entirely, but structured verse, 5 acts. And it's loosely based. Well, no, it says it's based in name only on the 17th century nobleman who has the same name, whose name was actually Savinien Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm not sure if I got the first name right. Who is known for his, quote, bold adventures and large nose. So the nose thing is like the primary thing that they got it from.
The nose.
But he was also a satirist and a dramatist. So also the skill with words is definitely also based on the real person. He also served in the company of guards when he was a young man and he was injured in a battle. And then he left the army and studied under the philosopher and mathematician Pierre Gassendi. And while he was studying with Gassendi, he wrote Voyage to the Moon, which was a novel that was like an early sci-fi novel. And it was a satirization of geocentrism. So it was a critique of the current religious norms and sort of society that saw like man and the earth as the center of the universe, and sort of like saying like how self-obsessed I would think. This is what I was gleaning from the what's the thing when it's not Wikipedia, but it's encyclopedia?
Miss Britannica.
What's the Wikipedia on print?
I need to challenge.
Remember back in the day when Wikipedia were in books and people,
pre-Wikipedia, the pre-Wikipedia. He also wrote a play called The Death of Agrippine, which was suspected of blasphemy. So he was doing a lot of challenging society at the time. And he also wrote a play called The Pedant Imitated, which was considered very foolish in its time because this was the era of classicism, which you both went to Loyola with me, so you can tell everybody about classicism in France. Go ahead.
Oh, we'd love to.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
But I don't want to. Yeah. I feel like you're on such a roll right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Is this like the bourgeoisie, like that? And then
no, that's classism. That classicism is it's the classics. It's like
the classics,
reaching back to like Greek and Roman.
Oh, I see. Yes, good work, Adam.
Blah, 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 blah.
And it was the thing with classicism in plays is that there were these extremely strict rules about this is how you write a good play, and it was like the unity of time and space. So it was like it should be in one place. It should happen over like basically real time. So there were like these really high expectations. It was. Of all the eras of at least European drama, because that's mostly what we know about, it was the most codified. It was the most codified era of drama of like the thing we're doing is following these rules every time. So you were to play that was outside of that, so people sort of dismissed it at the time. But Molière saw it, and there were 2 scenes in one of his later plays that were inspired by things in Bergerac's play. So we all know and love Molière.
Oh, we love Molière.
Bergerac was, was cool.
Tartuffe is our diva, honey.
Tartuffe is another big-nosed man in some productions. And then he also wrote a political pamphlet. The specifics of the political debate that he was talking about seemed like it was not worth my time to research. But what's important about it is that it was known for its Baroque prose. So it had a lot of bold and original metaphors. And it was, again, kind of dismissed at the time, but is now considered an esteemed example of the Baroque style of writing. And so I would also imagine, not having actually researched this term in depth, but Baroque would be very sort of like ornate, ostentatious, right? Mm-hmm. So like gilded. Writing for the gilded, for the writing for the sake of showing off your vocal, your verbal stylings, right? Not necessarily to concisely get the point across, which I feel like is very reflected in sort of like the overall use of language in this, for sure, that they are embracing like language for language's sake. They're really into like, how beautiful of a metaphor can you come up with for how much you love me, and not like the substance of necessarily what's being expressed, in my opinion. And so I think that is also the real inspiration as well, coming from the real figure. Yeah.
And also definitely like kind of like a key factor of the character too, like especially with like in this movie, like Roxanne being like, no, don't just say you love me. Say it. Say it pretty.
She has a song about how she's heard the line before of "you love me." This is really a musical about people whose love language is words of affirmation in a way that is extreme.
And as 2 people who are not words of affirmation people, honey.
Who wrote the original play? Edmond Rostand? Is that what you said?
Yes, I believe that's right. I didn't write it down, but that sounds correct.
Great. All right. This movie, Molly.
Thank you for that, Molly.
Thank you for that, Molly. Molly did that because Adam was
putting a
desk together today.
And so I finally did the job that I was supposed to be doing this whole time.
Oh, listen, it's the perfect one for you to do, because it would have been weird for you to be like, oh, now summarize, West Side Story or whatever. And now we can be like, Molly, I promise you, anytime we have to delve into classicism, history, you're the first one I'll ask to do some research for it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we just want to lean in on people's skills here,
Yeah. And RJ did the letterbox reviews.
And I did the letterbox reviews.
We're all pitching in today. Yeah.
And you know what? I made the Word doc. I made the Google Doc today too.
That's true. RJ usually does make the Google Docs now. So he gets credit for that for sure.
All right. This movie, Cyrano, directed by Joe Wright. You may know him as the director of Pride and Prejudice, everybody's favorite Pride and Prejudice.
Films.
And
the Tom Wamsgam's Pride and Prejudice.
Atonement. He also directed Atonement. He directed Anna Karenina a few years ago with
Jude Law and
Keira Knightley.
He also directed Pan, the much lambasted 2015 Pan. So, hits and misses.
But I think he shines in this like period drama of like pining period dramas.
Pining period. Yeah.
Screenplay is by Erica Schmidt. It is based on both Cyrano de Bergerac, the 1897 play by Edmond Rostand, and Cyrano, the 2018 musical, also written by Erica Schmidt.
2008.
Nope, 2008, that is wrong on Wikipedia.
You're correcting Wikipedia over here.
Erica Schmidt, Aaron Dessner, Bryce Dessner, Matt Berninger, also known as, and Karen Besser, also known as all the people who do, they're in the band The Nationals. The National, singular. The National. Sorry.
Gotcha.
They did the music and lyrics. Produced by Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner, Guy Healy. Stars Peter Dinklage as Cyrano de Bergerac. Haley Bennett, who maybe, if anybody saw Hillbilly Elegy, she was in that. She plays Roxanne.
I was going to say she was also in Girl on the Train. I think that might be her most famous.
Oh.
She is the girl that one sees from the train.
Oh, that's funny because Joe Wright also directed the movie
The
woman in the window. So it's a lot of like female on a place.
Putting females in a in a location.
In a setting.
Joe Wright.
Well, singular setting, time and place. I mean, it's really coming back to classicism.
Unity of time. Joe Wright also is partners with Haley Bennett.
Yes.
Oh.
Joe Wright is partners with Haley Bennett. This is their first project together. And Peter Dinklage is married to Erica Schmidt, who did the screenplay.
I knew that his wife was like a playwright. So I didn't realize that it was this person though. Cool.
Kelvin Harrison Jr. plays Christian de Neuvillette, and Ben Mendelsohn plays the Duke. Cinematography is by Seamus McGarvey. It is edited by Valerio Bonelli. The music by Aaron and Bryce Dessner. Production companies, MGM, Braun Creative, Working Title Films. It is distributed in the United States by United Artists Releasing and Universal Pictures internationally. Like I said earlier, it was released in September of 2021 at Telluride, but then went wide internationally in February of 2022. There's a little bit of a delay there. I'll talk about the weird release schedule that this thing went through. Its running time is 124 minutes. It cost $30 million to make, and it only made $6.4 million. It is considered a flop. Yeah. However, I feel like anytime we talk about a movie that came out in COVID, I have to be like, I just feel like we shouldn't even be putting these numbers on the screen.
Yeah.
They don't count. Period. So this musical was originally Cyrano 2018 in Connecticut. It was like a regional theater musical thing. And Erica Schmidt wrote the libretto, and then she also directed the original musical. And Peter Dinklage and Haley Bennett played the original roles of Cyrano and Roxanne in that onstage version.
Wow, okay.
And it did have a 2019 off-Broadway limited run. So, and then the world stopped. This was filmed in 2020 in Sicily, so that's fun. Wow. They were able to like sequester themselves into a little bubble. There were live vocals on set, Molly. There were live vocals on set.
No.
Molly, do you know what else will have live vocals?
Do you know what else is going to have live vocals on set?
I saw a headline at that. I am not looking forward to that even in the slightest. Why did they do that to Wicked?
I don't know. It's a very bizarre decision. This is the last MGM picture before Amazon purchased MGM Studios. So cool. I want to talk about the weirdness of how this was released. The film was widely released in February of 2022. The film was originally scheduled for a limited theatrical release in the United States, Christmas Day 2021, but the release date was then moved to New Year's Eve 2021. And then in November of 2021, the film's release plans were changed by United Artists Releasing in an effort to better position itself for Academy Awards qualification and contention. It had an exclusive 1-week theatrical run in Los Angeles on December 17th, prior to a planned limited theatrical release on January 21st, before expanding in subsequent weeks. The release date in the US was shifted to a limited release on January 28th before opening wide on February 11th. And then it was shifted again to a solely wide release on February 25th without a limited release on the same date as its release in the UK. The UK release was originally scheduled for release on January 14th, but postponed by Universal Pictures as part of the COVID-19 pandemic response. I understand there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
That did not there's no way that helped people get to the theater to see this film.
Right.
Okay. What did I couldn't even understand what I was reading while I was reading it. That is wild. So they
still did that limited run, or not limited, that 1-week engagement. So that way it was qualified for Academy Awards.
No, because it's nominated in the next. Wait.
So they just ran.
No, yeah, it was. This is March 27, 2022. So
they still did that one.
So they still did that 1-week theatrical run in December. And then just February is when it was coming out, which is very strange. Okay. So it was nominated for Best Costume Design at the Academy Awards. Did not win. That was the only nomination. But Peter Dinklage was nominated for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. Okay. The week this goes live, February 25th, 2022. It is number 9, the highest placement it gets, number 9 in the box office. Number 8 is Studio 666, a movie I couldn't tell you a single thing about.
Nope.
Number 7 is Marry Me. So we've got J-Lo back.
Hey. Definitely.
J-Lo beat Cyrano. Wow.
J-Lo
See, that's
beat
what I'm
That's the
Cyrano.
saying.
period J-Lo film for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
6 is Sing 2, the sequel to everyone's favorite animated film, Sing.
So another movie musical.
Another movie musical. This was huge. 5 is Jackass Forever, the movie we were all clamoring for in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
4 is Death on the Nile.
Yes.
This is the one
Okay.
where Gal Gadot is like,
fill enough champagne to fill
the Nile. What a horrible actress. Number 3, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh, people like that one.
People like that one.
That's the multiverse one, right?
I think.
No,
Yes.
that's Homecoming.
No, Homecoming's the first one.
Far From Home is the last. No, Far From. Yeah, right. Yes. No Way Home is the
No Way
third
Home
one.
is the third one.
Yeah.
Far From Home is when they're
The middle one.
in Italy.
Yeah.
It's when they're far from home.
It's when they're
Yes.
far from
Yeah.
home. Number 2 is Dog.
There was a movie called Dog.
I can't.
2022.
And it made $10 million
that week.
that weekend.
Hold on.
I couldn't have no idea.
Couldn't tell you what
Couldn't.
Dog was.
And number 1 was Uncharted.
Yes.
I don't know that one either.
That's the
Dog
it's the video
starred
game.
Channing Tatum.
As a dog? Is it an animated
as
film?
a man that it looks like is like going cross country with a dog.
Oh, so like a Marley and Me feel good.
With a dog named Lulu by his side, Army Ranger Briggs races down the Pacific coast to make it to a soldier's funeral on time.
Yeah, that is for America for sure.
That is an American.
That is an
film.
American film.
Sure. Well, you know what? It beats Cyrano.
Yeah. It's not an American film.
That's all I have about this movie. Let's move on.
Okay.
Molly, since you gave us a summary, and because I know what RJ already thinks about this movie, I'd like to hear your general thoughts on the film Cyrano.
I feel that I feel bad having this opinion as a host of a movie musical podcast, but I think I would have liked it better if it were not a musical.
Yes.
I love Joe Wright's films. I love the visuals of the films.
Absolutely.
Incredible visuals. I enjoyed the acting. It is a classic story, so it's hard not to be invested in the overall story of it. I felt that the songs were not really adding to the experience. I think that the music itself was quite forgettable. I enjoyed some of the dance sequences a lot.
Yeah.
Especially though when I liked the dance sequences, I think, because they let it live outside of the world of the movie a little bit more. And I think that it did the modern musical thing of trying to make it too grounded for a lot of it. And now the setting is already a little bit heightened because it's a period piece, but so it wasn't quite a Dear Evan Hansen situation. But like, I was wishing for, if you're gonna do the musical thing, make the numbers feel more like a dreamed reality and more outside of the world, and not like we're just doing a scene in which we happen to be singing. That was my overall feeling about it.
I think that it was trying to do, because the two that stand out to me is like the bakery number, right? Where it's like, okay, I could see this happening in real life where everyone all of a sudden just bursts into song and dance. But it's also like all of a sudden there's like more bakers that are in. So it's kind of towing the line that I almost wish, that it could have just gone like full one direction or the other. But I do agree. I really like the dance numbers a lot. The bakery was one. And when Christian in the training, the sparring, I really like that.
Christian's number and seeing all the guys dancing in the fort was my favorite part of the whole movie.
I agree. At least my favorite number of like just... Ooh.
It's my favorite number.
Let's do that. What's your favorite part of the movie? Is that yours, Molly?
I think, if I'm evaluating it as a musical, definitely. I think that might be the thing that I will, if you ask me in like a year, if you remind me of the movie, that might be the image that gets conjured. I did also really love, though, just the scene with the letter and then Christian's death. I mean, it's just like the heightened, the most dramatic point. Just the acting was like superb in that whole segment, and the gut wrenching, like him committing suicide by running into the. I mean, it's it's melodramatic, it's over the top, but it also like they really played it in a way that I was emotionally invested in the moment.
I think mine is probably the bakery scene from the very beginning of the baker trying to write a poem, and then Cyrano talking to the baker saying, why don't you just use baking as your metaphor, all the way to that Roxanne confessing that she fell love at first sight
with Christian,
and Cyrano trying to like backtrack, like having to who was gonna confess as well.
I liked the visuals a lot of the baking scene, but how do we feel about baking as a metaphor for sensuality? Do we feel that that's the strongest metaphor one could use?
Yeah, kneading dough. Come on, the hands.
There are these wild TikTok creators, Molly.
No, I know about this.
Yes,
I've seen commentary videos about
beautifully
them.
manicured hands.
Spanking. No, I'm not talking. The guys.
Yes, the guys.
Spanking dough.
It makes me mad because there would be a way to do those in a way that is actually suggestive and could be interesting, but he takes it way too far. It's he crosses the line. He crosses the line into being crass and vulgar.
Yes.
And it is too much. Like, you're kind of getting to be like, okay, I see what's a little bit sexy or whatever. And then it's like, he's just, I could say that my mother listens to this podcast. I don't want to. There's some shots of some fruit that are too explicit.
Yeah. Totally.
It feels X-rated, and it is literally just dough and fruit. I mean, it's so wild, but it's so purposeful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it is almost impressive how if somebody was like, this man was giving a prompt of like, how explicit can you make it seem like you're being with just food? Then like he succeeded in an amazing way.
I saw one where he made donuts. Cream custard filled donuts.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, oh my God. so
I mean,
sexy.
I also felt like with the baking thing, and then like they just were making like plain loaves of bread that I was like, I want you to at least be making like very pretty French pastries. Like that's what France is known for.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm, thinking of a more Baroque, ostentatious version of love instead of a more steady, everyday. You want your long-term partner to just be a nice loaf of bread. I get it, but like we're talking about passion here. Like, make me some patisserie, please.
Yes, patisserie, honey. It's a tie though with Roxanne reading the letters. I also really like that whole sequence.
Yes.
Very visually, like, oh my God, like talking about sensuality of like, she literally.
Okay, wait, no, yeah. There's kind of two halves of Roxanne reading the letters, because there's the later part where it's the letters are like falling from the sky in various shots. That was beautiful. The beginning
smelling,
of it, the smelling of the letters, the rolling around in the bed with the letters felt a little Donut Daddy to me. It was a little.
Are you Donut Daddy or are you falling letters graciously?
Mommy.
Right.
Yeah. Falling letters,
falling
mommy.
Letters, mommy.
I'm more of a falling letters mommy gal myself, so I was not vibing with the beginning of that scene.
So I would say my favorite part of this movie was either the sequence in which he dispatches the 10 assassons.
Yeah.
That like come on to him. That really hit on him in the middle of the street.
Too much of a Donut Daddies. We're getting
Start cruising him in the middle of the street. That moment, I thought that was really cool, and that's when I was like, I don't think I've ever seen
like a
movie musical that had such an incredible action sequence as that. I was so impressed with it, and it's such a testament to the way to film choreography, because it is just fight choreography. It's just a different type of dance. And then the other part that I was very moved by, and I'm going to sound like an absolute sap, was when the three guys were penning their letters back to their like loved ones before they were like going to go die. Because it was like, it took obviously the movie has to take a somber turn. It does not end happily, but it was so... We just left the story to focus on these regular people. Yeah. And I was really impressed by their commitment to be like, just really think about what this is though.
And it's like making that connection of like, this whole movie is about writing letters. And then these are just three men just writing honest letters. Yeah. Of like, do this, do that, don't worry.
And we were talking beforehand about like the relationships in this movie are really just like one complicated relationship of Men and Roxanne. Yeah. But we've been so hyper focused on like this love diamond, as we called it earlier. The three suitors for Roxanne, we've been so hyper focused on it that almost none of the other characters are real. Like Cyrano kind of has a friend that he confesses some stuff to, but like that guy's he's not a fleshed out character. He has no perspective or purpose outside of being Cyrano's friend. And to so suddenly shift and to say like, hey, just so you know, like everyone around here is also a three-dimensional character who has a love story just as profound as everything we've just been seeing about Cyrano and Roxanne, was like so effective to suddenly make you think about like, oh my God, all these men that I'm going to see die in the battle in the next scene. Like your brain does the work of then connecting it to every other guy that you see, of like all of them have people that they love and that they're going to care that they died. And so it makes it all so much more effective.
Yeah. And really like raises the stakes on, because it is this Cyrano de Bergerac, the story is so silly because the first half of it is so kind of like goofy. And that's why like they make it's easy to create a comedy of this trope, because like guy who has a big nose who falls in love with a pretty girl and she loves him back in the end. Like it's great. But I liked the way it really grappled with the reality of the situation when they go off to war, and it stopped being fun. Yeah. Honestly, the fact that the Duke was like, we're going to get married and then I'm going to like consummate our marriage, or I'm going to rape you, like in a letter, was so incredibly shocking.
Yeah.
So the song with the three men who are about to go out, the first guy, I was like, his voice sounds so familiar. It's Glenn Hansard, who wrote Once. The movie Once. I recognize that voice and that face. It's called Wherever I Fall.
I have a wife I haven't seen since lilacs bloomed insane hit the lead. She always wears them in her hair, and she lets them fall down everywhere. I can see her in the glowing light, dressing without a sound. I promised I'd be home alright, but I gotta lay this body down. So take this letter to my wife and tell her that I loved my life. Tell my boys, the Lord, he found me. When I say their names out loud, they're all around me. And tell them not to cry at all. Heaven is wherever I fall.
It's very effective in my opinion. So I think the music for me works better than it does for you, Molly. Okay. But I think my complaint about the music is not necessarily the song, what the songs sound like. My complaint is for a story in which it is about use of language. I just feel like the lyrics are, I really liked Wherever I Fall because it's regular guys penning, like that is what it's supposed to sound like. It's supposed to sound like people who are not used to writing love letters, right? Yeah. That's great. That works perfectly. And I like it even for Christian, like some of his lyrics being like, almost like there were times where the way the syllables hit that I was like, I would believe you if you told me that this was like translated from another language, because it was like, oh, the syllables match in the original language, but then they had to like figure it out.
Sure.
So I was like, that's fine.
Like there's a stiltedness to it. Yeah. I wanted there to be a discernment between like the way Cyrano and Roxanne's lyrics are like more, and I don't want to say heightened because I don't think, and I haven't read the original play, so I maybe shouldn't speak on this, but Cyrano to me is like it's not iambic pentameter. Like it's not like height. It's not like structured in that way. It's more just like it has a rhyme scheme that it like really sticks to. And so it is very
while being beautiful, it is still very common. Like it's still accessible by like the public. So I wished it was just like a little, I don't need it to be like poetry in motion, but like I wanted just there to be a vocal distinction between like how they sing. Does that make sense?
So I thought that you were going to say that you needed it to be like the lyrics should be so amazing if you're going to write this musical, but you're saying even just the musicality should suggest a difference in the way that the characters are approaching language, even if the language itself isn't necessarily the greatest metaphors you've ever heard for love. Like it's not the music telling you something about the characters and their relationship to the language.
Yeah. Like I think the language in this that's strongest is that opening sequence where he interrupts the play and he does the like witty like back and forth, blah, blah, blah.
I found that a little hard to have as the character introduction. I was like, this is a lot for me to get on board with. You're like kind of saying like, get in it or don't, you know, like, yeah.
Totally. It's very Moulin Rouge in that way.
It's a bit Moulin Rouge, yeah.
It worked for me. I think of the three of us, I think I was the most charmed by this. That being said, it's definitely recency bias and it's definitely the fact that we have watched some real clunkers.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to be mad tomorrow when I talk about this movie.
At least there's like a point of view. I mean, the thing with Joe Wright's films, like it's just at least the sheen and the packaging.
I could write a book on the costumes in this film.
Yeah.
It's almost like a oh my God, what is his name? Asteroid City.
Wes Anderson.
There's a Wes Anderson kind of like auteur style of like specificity.
Yeah. Totally.
Making sure everything.
Yeah. He has a complete point of view of what his movies look like.
Yeah,
specifically.
I really appreciate that this big scale musical got made for sure. I think that's important to acknowledge and that there is a perspective. Or you can say, RJ, I have something else to say with music, but yeah.
I was just going to say the music, it does feel, maybe I need to listen to the musical, like the original musical maybe, but yeah, it just feels that the music, there's a little bit of like disconnect, but I'm also a person who like not really into the kind of like Marie Antoinette, where it's like I'm watching one period, but then I'm listening to like modern music.
The
anachronism.
Yes, that.
The Converse shoes.
I like it's not as smooth for me sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, look, I actually love Marie Antoinette. I love an anachronism, but Marie Antoinette is a very fun version of anachronism.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it's interesting, RJ, that you made the connection to Once, because I was going to say, I love musicals like that. And when we just listened to the songs just now, and I was only appreciating them as songs, I liked them a lot more than I liked them in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think actually maybe what for me wasn't working is the style of music with the style of the movie, because it's so visually sumptuous, and then it's this like very stripped back version of music, which I really like, but then I needed it to I needed the movie then to be a stripped back version, which I think would have been weird because it is Baroque. It is like the time period is very ostentatious, and the point of the language is the like enjoying the art for the art's sake and the being over the top. And so it's weird to have a musical that's like about a character whose whole deal is being over the top, but the music is very stripped back. Like I just think they didn't go together.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of sometimes how I felt with Across the Universe, of like the music feels.
Well, the Beatles don't write good music, so we can all for sure say that.
I didn't know I only know that one song. No, like it reminds me a little bit of that, where it's like I'm kind of watching. Yeah, the visuals and the audio don't match in that way. Yeah.
I definitely think that there is a plainness in the music that I wish wasn't there, but I think I was just so pleased because I didn't know this was the National. I didn't know this was like a band. So I was just so thrilled that this did not sound like contemporary musical theater.
Yes.
That I was like,
it still sounds theatrical. God. The song still sounded like poetry. It still sounds like it's trying to evoke things that it's not just like a jukebox.
I can see this like in 10, 15 years, like being like Chess, how Chess is like not regarded as a great musical, but like
the music
is like really good or something. Like there's like a difference between there's like, because they don't meet, there's like one is better than the other. And I don't I like, yeah. I don't know if maybe the musical on stage works better.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to kind of do this ornate detailing on stage, especially on an off-Broadway production.
Obviously, I didn't love it, but I did like it. And I would not be surprised if this became a real like musical theater nerd niche. People love this kind of thing and appreciation grew for it over time. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Yeah.
If this came out when I was in college, I feel like I would be like obsessed with it.
Yeah, probably.
Because I remember when Once came out, I was obsessed with the movie. I really liked the music in the movie. And then when they adapted it for the stage, I was like, oh, yes.
It's so funny because when I was researching, I was like, I didn't know that this was based on a musical already. So the whole time I was watching this, I was like, I need someone to put this on stage so bad, because I was like, I think this would really work on stage even better than it's working in this movie for me.
Because even the sets, I mean, it's interesting that they filmed just in like one little pocket in Sicily, because the stage felt, or the movie felt like they were like built sets, almost kind of like when we watch The Tragedy of Macbeth, where it just kind of felt like I feel like I'm on a sound stage and they built these like ruins, you know?
There was I was very impressed once I like learned that it was like, they filmed this in 2020 in Italy, in Sicily. Cause I was like, it doesn't feel like a COVID production. Like it doesn't feel like there's a bunch of like green screened people into a room together.
Yeah.
Like it feels very tactile in a way that not a lot of films of that era did.
Yeah.
And that I was like very impressed with.
There were a lot of soldiers in it. I'm surprised that they got that many people.
Many soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you were, that was the thing, like in that time, if you were able to like perfectly create your bubble, then you were like good to go.
Yeah.
And I guess it helped they were in Sicily and not like on land proper, like on the mainland.
Land proper.
Because COVID can't swim. I don't know if
COVID can't swim.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She can't. She's not a good swimmer.
Can't do
it. Should we discuss how good Peter Dinklage's performance is in this?
Okay. So yes, like Peter Dinklage is obviously amazing. And I think that they did this in part because of putting Peter Dinklage in it.
Yeah.
Here is my one problem with it. I'm glad to know now that the partners of the people who were doing this got them into this movie, because the one issue I have is that Haley Bennett is fully 20 years younger than Peter Dinklage, and they're supposed to be childhood friends.
I thought about that, yeah.
You really cannot go with them on the idea that that's true. And as I was watching it, I was like, you cowards, cast a woman in her 50s to be Roxanne. Totally. I get it that like in the time period, probably you wouldn't be pursuing a middle-aged woman because like women were valuable only for their ability to bear children or whatever. But like, you can't convince me that Peter Dinklage is 35. So like, you have to just cast an older woman to be Roxanne. It makes more sense now that I know that she is in a relationship with Joe Wright. Like, whatever. And I like, she did a great job. I have no issues with the actual performance, but like, I thought that it felt a little. I became more aware of feeling like the movie was written for Dinklage because of the age gap between the characters, because I really feel like Cyrano is not supposed to be quite that old in the story. Yeah.
He's born in 69. She's born in 88. And she does not look like 3 years older than us. Like she looks like she's like 20 years old.
Yeah.
I did have that feeling at the very beginning of this movie. And then I was like, if I don't get past this, I'm not going to enjoy this movie. So I just got to mentally power through it.
Enjoy it. Yeah. No, that's fair.
This was our first Dinklage too. This is our first time really watching him perform. We just knew he was great.
Did you guys watch Game of Thrones?
We did not.
Okay, because that would be the other thing I would say is that the character is not the same as his character in Game of Thrones, but there are a lot of similarities in terms of like using his wit to get by and being really admired for that and stuff like that. So it felt a little like there were elements of feeling like it was like a repeat performance from Game of Thrones, but also like if you're that good at it, lean into it.
Yeah. I've only seen Peter Dinklage before this movie famously he's in Elf.
Yeah.
In case you have all forgotten that. And then also he was in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh.
He's a real jerk in that movie, yeah.
That is a wild film. That's all I'm really going to say about that. And I don't particularly remember his performance. I mean, I remember the scene that happens, but I wasn't like, it's a very minor role. I was so incredibly charmed by him in this film. And I think he has the perfect face for sad, broody guy because his eyes slope downwards. So he just looks sad. And I was like,
permanent droopy eyes.
Yeah. We have to talk about the choice to change this from a character who has a big nose and that is his problem, quote unquote problem, into a person who has, I mean, they reference, he calls himself a midget in the film, a person who has dwarfism as their like, that's what pulls them outside of society.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I mean, I think I can imagine that this whole project was built on, even the musical, I'm sure it was built on like, it should be Peter Dinklage and like kind of taking that lived in experience as a way to really kind of enhance the character in order to make it like it's a real person, you know.
I wonder how much he may resonate with that character in general. And again, like his wife writing it, was he
they
part
are
of
a real Cyrano Roxanne.
I mean, there really is, because I mean she's a playwright. I'm sure that she loves words, and you know, he's an actor. I'm sure that they're like a couple that is very passionate about beautiful expressions, right? You would think if they're creative. So, you know, I would think that if you have a really visible disability like this, you would really resonate with this character and the idea of using your words to woo somebody when you feel like your physical, you know, self is not what's expected. Yeah.
Because this is the original Love is Blind, really, at the end of the day.
Love is actually blind. Oh my God. Can I have a quick tangent about Love is Blind?
Please do.
I've only ever watched like 3 episodes of it, but I'm now like plugged in enough to the culture of like people talking about the show. Do we feel, okay, so I've heard that people are complaining that like as it's gone on, people ask each other more questions to try to discern what you look like. Do we think it's different to try to ask somebody what their racial identity is than to ask about just like general physical appearance? Because I feel like I've heard people critique people who will ask questions that are like about your cultural background. And like, is the thesis about love being blind, does it have to apply to race? Because like, that's not just your physical appearance.
My problem with Love is Blind, this is not answering your question, by the way. My problem with Love is Blind from the beginning is that if you're going to do it, cast non-conventionally attractive people.
Absolutely.
Everyone on that show is so hot. They're the hottest people you would ever see in your life.
It's very silly that they don't.
And so it's so stupid to be like, what if
these two hot
ugly.
people didn't realize the specific way that they were hot.
Yeah.
It is very silly. And really, do you know what would be really spicy is having it be half really conventionally attractive people and half people who are not conventionally attractive.
Totally.
And then you would end up with couples that are like a real mismatch. That would be the more interesting experiment for sure.
Totally.
It really will be Cyrano.
Yeah.
Can you answer Molly's question?
Please, our token person of color.
I almost feel like at that point, I think just make it a rule. Like just the producers will just tell the contestants you can't ask about race, and just make it a decision, because I think it's too muddy to like see someone like either fall into a trap or someone who like, well, I'm curious, I want to actually ask it, but then I can't. And then you get into sweaty territory of like, is that really the right way to do it or whatever?
But then like, where would you draw? I mean, okay, so maybe this is why they don't have the rule. Where would you draw the line of a question that would obviously tell you what somebody's race is by the way that they answer it? Like, I guess I just think that like, I understand there was a whole Megan Fox thing I know that happened this season. And I understand why people are like, you should not be asking each other, like, what celebrity do you most look like? Like, that's really about, like...
Oh, that's wild.
Yes, yeah.
Physical... Did you know about the Megan Fox thing?
No.
We don't watch this.
Someone said that, and
I know.
Like?
Again, I know about it. I didn't actually watch the show. There was a woman who got asked what her celebrity lookalike was, and she said, in this roundabout way where she was trying to be, like, coy about it, that people have said that she looks like Megan Fox, and this woman does not look like Megan Fox. And so that was, like, the drama of the season, was her calling herself Megan Fox. But like,
maybe she just meant she had little thumbs. Did you know Megan Fox has little thumbs?
I didn't.
Do you know those? Do you know that's a thing where like your last knuckle doesn't fully develop on your thumb or something like that, so it looks like a little half thumb.
Huh?
She has those.
She's a real Cyrano de Bergerac.
She's Megan Fox is Cyrano.
I'd watch it.
I'd watch it, honey.
But I have also, in people complaining about that, I also feel like people have complained about people asking questions that are basically like, hey, are you black? And like, I just think that like that's not. If the idea of love being like, to me, it's about like, can you love somebody without seeing if they're physically attractive to you or not? But like, I don't think that it's because this is a context of another Black person asking somebody if they were Black. So like, I think that that's a different thing than like, can you be attracted to this person or not? Like, I do think your racial identity goes beyond just a physical outward appearance. Yeah. So I think that that's a fair thing to ask somebody about personally. Let's go back to Cyrano de Bergerac.
I also think the show's gone long enough too that people are now just like, well, I've seen the show and see how it works. So people go in knowing how to get around stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Cyrano.
Here's what
I thought the idea, conventionally this role would be played by a leading man who then just dons a nose.
Yeah.
And
Steve Martin,
there is a real truth to Peter Dinklage when he's told he's a freak, being like, okay, I have heard that so many times before. And it was like a really cool moment that I was like, this is doing like two things at once.
Yeah, it's almost like you know it's going to come. So might as well just happen at the beginning. And then for his reaction to be like, it's like, oh, yeah, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You think it's going to be like a thing that sets him off.
Yes, exactly. The one that will take him down.
So good. Do you have anything?
No, I agree. I think it adds a lot of substance to just having a big nose is like a little bit. I think having a nose is a great setup for a Steve Martin comedy. And I think
exactly.
I think that this is a lived experience that's making this very dramatic movie have a lot of truth to it too. And so, I thought that the substance, and I loved the discussion that he has with Christian, where he says like, well, the world would never accept it. And he was like, but you're not giving Roxanne enough credit. The differentiation that Christian makes between what would the world accept and what would Roxanne accept, and saying like, I think that you are selling her short by believing that she could never get over the fact that you're not, conventionally what she would look for necessarily physically. And I also loved the scene when she is talking to him about Christian's letters, and she compares the way that they use language. And she says, he is very like passionate, but kind of straightforward, and you speak in a very coded way. And it makes it so clear that the barrier for her in loving Cyrano is the fact that he hides his feelings for her and not anything about his physicality. I thought that was a really smart scene to tell us, so that it makes sense when she accepts it, when she learns that he wrote the letters, because her barrier was in how coded he was with his feelings.
Yeah, I agree. Let's listen to Madly, the song where he reveals to his friend the captain that he is in love with, Roxanne.
Have you ever wanted something so badly you cannot breathe? Have you ever loved someone madly?
Okay, whatever. Who cares?
I guess that was it.
I mean, Peter Dinklage is not a great singer. That's obviously not why they cast him in the role. So I think maybe they were minimizing also his time singing.
Peter Dinklage is not a great singer. It is true. Peter Dinklage, though, I was not bothered by his lack of ability.
No.
Because for me, it tied into if he was like a brilliant singer. I mean, I guess you could argue the opposite, right? If he was a brilliant singer, it's like speaks to the poetry. But for me, it was like, he's not a brilliant singer. and it's part of the like attractiveness, right? Like he's not seen as attractive and it's like another manifestation of that kind of idea.
That's a good point, because Christian is like a beautiful singer. His voice is amazing.
Yes.
And so it is one way that they contrast the characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian is also really hot.
Really attractive.
Very hot.
Very hot.
Sexy.
Very hot, man.
Because at first I thought, honestly, before his number, I thought that he was going to be like beaten up, because Roxanne had made a very big deal of like, you know, you soldiers have that crazy initiation where he's going to get roughed up. So if you can like make sure that he doesn't get hurt or whatever. And he really puts up a fight. Like he pretty much protects himself. Even if Cyrano didn't come to kind of like stop him or challenge him, he probably could have handled all of those men.
This was a part of the hotness for you. Is that why you're talking about this right now?
Yeah, that I was like, ooh, someone who's like, because he kind of has like a baby face a little bit. I think just from like the very big eyes and like very like romantic ingenueness of him, obviously. And then, you know, like the first time we see him, he's kind of like new to the town, and, you know, a thief steals his stuff. So I was like, oh, he's going to be kind of like a goof or like a doofus in that. A himbo. But he ended up like, you know, beating all those men up.
I mean, okay, so maybe this is me being an insubstantial person.
Jeez.
Or maybe I disagree with this musical. I thought that Christian's inability to like really express himself was very endearing. Like I actually would totally go for Christian.
Oh, totally.
Because not that Peter Dinklage is a very handsome man, but like I feel like I'm not that. I think you guys were all saying like you're not really words of affirmation people. It's not that like some words of affirmation you definitely need in a relationship.
Yeah, I'll
like
take
you want some of that. You want a sprinkle of that. But like
I would like a sprinkle of that.
I actually think that like being able to express yourself poetically is like a cute trick, but it's not really like something you build a relationship on personally. And so I feel like I'm supposed to watch this and think that like Roxanne and Cyrano are like smarter because they're like good with words, but I just think that they like have this hyper specific skill that other people don't necessarily have. And I don't think that Christian is necessarily not intelligent because he just doesn't have this poetic ability. And so I would totally like be wooed by Christian's just like awkward attempts at like he feels it. He just doesn't know how to say it. And like, I think that that's really cute actually. Yeah.
I think acts of service. He would be the type to kind of like
I think Christian is a physical touch guy, RJ. Based on him continuously asking
he wants
for
to
a kiss.
Yeah.
And you're being like,
true.
calm down, don't ask her for a kiss yet. Yeah.
I think that this movie, I think it has some fun. Obviously, there's comedy in the like he can't find the right words. I think that's it plays that really well.
Oh, and the what's the word for somebody who can't figure out a way to express themselves or something like that. Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah.
But I think that this movie is very kind toward Christian and does reveal his capacity for love, even if it is different. I don't think it looks down on. I think the more important fact is that Cyrano, the tragedy of the whole situation is that Cyrano really at the end of the day has not heard RuPaul say, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? And that is 2 episodes in a row now that I have referenced that. And because he is convinced that there's no way that she could ever like him, he has deluded himself into thinking, even though obviously the only person in this entire fucking town that is as obsessed with language as him is the girl that you like. I just talk about that, do that together, and you'd be fine. But he can't do it. So I think it's more drawing like when I was researching criticism of this film, there were some critics who were saying that the love story does not get underway. It does not plant itself enough for me to believe the love at the end of the film, the reveal of the love of both characters. And I think for me it worked, but it's because I inferred all those things, all those little details that are not like obvious expressions of love to each other. But like, I mean, there's the obvious stuff of like, the way she will like tell him what to do and he has to do it. Like, it's like, he is like honor bound to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also the way like there's when she like saves his life by telling him that the guy's going to kill him. Like I believed the love and I was very swept up into it, but I do see how there is not a lot of time that this movie spends given to the two of them in scenes
how
for them
else
to
the love is there.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I do believe that Roxanne contained love for both. Because even when she was confessed that she fell in love at first sight with Christian, there's still a very much like caring for Cyrano that, you know, that's always there. That I think maybe some people just like, maybe it's too nuanced. Maybe it's too, because we're so clear that like, well, it's clearly a love triangle. So then it's just the unrequited love. But like, I do get from like her performance and in the writing and how it's kind of structured that she's pulled by both. It's not as like passionate romantic as Love at First Sight, obviously, but there's something that obviously wants to keep her, keep seeing Cyrano, protecting Cyrano from the Duke, and like doing everything she can to make sure that, you know, Cyrano can still be what he's doing. You know,
I even felt like her reaction to his disappointment when he realizes that she's not talking about him in the scene where she's confessing her love made me think that maybe she even had an inkling about his feelings.
I think so,
and again, I think that scene where she talks about the coded language is another indication of, it's not that she doesn't like him, but he hasn't been his authentic self with her enough for her to trust him and then fall in love with him.
And that's something that you like, especially if they are childhood friends, like she knows when that switch happens of like, oh, I think I actually like this person. So there is something that you're holding back to a person that knows you fully, like knows you more than you do sometimes.
Right.
Do you relate with that, Adam? Anything there, Adam?
Is this, do I need to make a moment for whatever just happened, or do I keep talking?
No, I just think, we celebrated our 5th year anniversary. So.
Okay.
Your
Molly?
Oh, of being married.
Wedding. Yeah.
I was like, you've been together for more than 5 years.
Of the year we met 5 years ago.
Wow.
You were there, Molly. It was Love is Blind. That wedding. That was the first time Adam and I ever met.
Wow. No, that's Married at First Sight, which I have actually been watching. Okay. What was I going to say about the love story not being established? Girl, did you watch any of the letter scenes?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, there aren't tons and tons of scenes of the two of them physically interacting with each other, but like you were missing the whole point with the letters if you feel like those were adding to the love story. Girl, what? Like, actually, my biggest issue with Roxanne and how she was introduced is that the first scene, she's like very silly seeming. It's like her nursemaid or whatever, like telling her off for
like, you're not serious.
Taking the Duke more seriously. And it was just her being like, ha ha ha, I shall marry for love. Blah, blah. And she like seems extremely young and foolish and whatever. And I like did not like her. And it's not till later that we see her like at the salon, like reading her own
she's dignified,
writings and everything, that I was like, oh, like, okay, now I get it that like she and Cyrano have this in common, but like the first scene doesn't really establish her whole like love of language thing. And it felt like kind of a different characterization than the rest of the movie. Honestly, I don't know what they were trying to accomplish by opening with that scene.
I want to shout out the woman who plays her nursemaid, Marie. Her name is Monica Dolan. I was so incredibly charmed with her performance. I laughed at every line she had in this film.
Yeah, her delivery was so good.
Perfect delivery.
It just like pierced through with how everyone's language is, that she was just so straightforward that I was like, oh, love it.
I mean, there is, it starts out and you're set up with, Roxanne is like a full romantic and a believer in like the
very much, it reminded me of like Gwyneth in Shakespeare in Love, like just kind of like,
oh yeah,
flighty, almost like aimless in that way.
And I agree. She doesn't feel that way in the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And I think you're supposed to draw. It's because she had this like first love finally. So she can finally like pass into womanhood.
I guess. To some degree. I mean, sorry. The idea of love at first sight is so silly to me that it's hard for me to take it seriously. I know that I have to buy into it for this movie to work, but like what, that instant matured her somehow? Like what is happening?
Yeah. Not only did she fall in love, but also she her frontal lobe stopped developing.
Yeah,
it was
she
fully
hit 25
maturated.
I think because the love at first sight was so quick that he was immediately snatched away because like a thief stole his stuff, that I was like, I wish they had like a random encounter. Like I wish they bumped into each other.
You wish they were like in a
Exchange
market and she
words.
was like, I'm going to be a dress shop owner. And he was like, no, you can't sell dresses because
You're
they're
not
not allowed.
Women don't own
Yeah.
businesses.
Right.
And he ended up
I wish it
actually
was
being
just
the
like that.
prince.
That would have been
Do you
better
think,
for sure.
this is a random question, do you think
If Camila Cabello played
that this would be a better film? I probably. Do you think that the reference to Roxanne, the Duke purchasing a red dress for her, do you think that's a reference to the song Roxanne?
Tissatine. You have to put on
No,
red.
she doesn't have to put on that red light, not a red dress.
Oh, red
Different
light.
thing.
It's red
Yeah.
light.
You don't have to wear
Red
that
like
dress
thread.
tonight.
You don't have to
We
wear
don't know
that
the color
dress
of
tonight.
dress.
We don't know the
let's-
color.
Well, are we ready to talk about dresses, gowns, beautiful gowns?
Gowns, people gowns.
The way the fabrics moved in this movie, Adam was like, I feel like I'm watching Dune. It doesn't feel
I
like
mean,
earthly fabric.
It's not the gowns, it's the sleeves.
It's the sleeves.
That is,
it's the veils.
I have never seen a movie with such an homage to sleeves before.
I don't know. I think it's the nun habits.
The
Like
The nun habits are amazing. They're so not anything any nun has ever worn.
No.
it's just the perfect. It matches the tone of the like. It's just slightly heightened.
Yeah.
Like it's just outside the realm of norm, but it's not specific enough to be like, well, that can't be what really people really like. It's not so ostentatious that it's like, well, it takes me fully out. Like it's so perfectly done. And also like, I think suit or like military wear in films can be so boring. And I thought these were so cool looking and they fit so well. And like, obviously they're going to tailor everything to Peter Dinklage's like height and everything, but he looked so good in all his clothes. I was like, ooh, and his little cloak in the winter. Oh God. He looked, well, I will say the little cloak, cause he had like a really big neck. It was like a big neck and then the hood. And there was a part of me that was like, he looks like an Ewok when he's like walking around because he's so little. So that was very cute.
Okay, you edit this, so you can decide whether or not you want that to be the final podcast.
It was reminiscent of another fantasy film for me. Okay. But I just thought there was like this way that I don't know what the fucking fabric was they used for some of these gowns, but the way they moved was so unreal that I was like,
It felt like
is this CG? Is like the gown CGI? Like I truly couldn't tell. I could not tell you what these. It was like gossamer curtains. I was like, yes, honey, give it, please.
and it felt like there was like it felt
When
like
she like went to the bakery and she had the veil on, and it was like, like not mourning, but like a gray. I was like, this is so chic. Yeah.
Mom was like, fuck the gowns, bitch.
Molly doesn't care about costumes.
I know the costumes are beautiful. I'm not surprised that it was nominated for an Academy Award for costumes.
Totally.
Yeah.
They were beautiful and they were used well in the story. And I just think, again, it gets me back to the music. And like, no music was as beautiful as the nun habits. And so,
yes. I want to talk a little bit more about this performance from Haley Bennett as Roxanne, because I did not know her from anything. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything before. I didn't look up her full filmography, but when RJ was like, we were watching the movie and he was like, guess how old she is. And I was like, what? Like 23, 24. And he was like, she is 4 years older than us. I was like, this girl, I want to say this. I said this to RJ. Do you know how sometimes you'll be watching a period piece and you'll be like,
She looks
this
too
is a
much
face. This is a face that has looked in an iPhone. Like you look too modern. Your face shape is too modern. Your eyes are too big. There's something going on. She has period piece face. Like she just like looks like she fit right into the world.
Yeah, like the eyes are kind of like small and far from the rest of her features.
Yes.
That I was like, oh, I could see your face on like a old canvas like painting.
Yes.
Of like a woman being made into a portrait.
Yes.
Of this time period.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. That is not the only thing I want to say about her performance, but I was I was delighted by that because one of the last like truly period pieces, like films we watched in the theaters was Emma from 2020.
Yes.
Love that.
With Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Okay.
And she is a wonderful actress and she was so good in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I was like, I know you have an iPhone in your pocket. I just know it. I'm watching this movie knowing it.
Kind of an anachronistic film.
No,
Yes,
totally.
Yeah.
That was purposefully done and I thought very well done. But I just liked that this girl, like this
Molly,
woman does
that was the last movie that Adam and I watched before the pandemic, like in theaters. Literally everything shut down like 3 days after we watched that.
I don't remember what the last movie was I watched in theaters before the pandemic.
It was a great movie though.
It's a great movie.
What did you think about her overall performance?
Yeah, I mean, I said I really liked the letter reading scene, and honestly, like her performance in the more kind of melodramatic moments. So after the wedding, where he has to Christian has to go to war, and then obviously at the end when in Cyrano's death, she just has such a grasp on the language that it was like, ooh, it gave me atonement, like it gave me the Keira Knightley kind of performance. And the I Need More, that's it. It's the song I Need More where she is just like, I've made the joke that it's like, this is when girls read fan fiction for the first time and they're like, I need more. She has this kind of like voracious appetite for this writing.
And maybe this is also where the first scene does make sense of that like youthful desire for the more, but like this is where I felt like it was I was the least impressed with the language, that I was like, what a like petulant reasoning for wanting the
It was just very interesting. I don't think it was like, not that it was like, oh, this is pivotal, but it just kind of gave me like a little color of like, oh, she's obsessed with just the superfluosity of the language, which I do think it all comes back to that. If the overall tone of the music was more ostentatious, then I think it would have synced in deeper, because it's like the whole point is that she wants it to be lavish in the writing, but then the writing and the music is not as lavish. So there's the like shift. But I mean, I really liked how kind of desperate she becomes in that moment. That I thought was really, really interesting. And
I think Haley Bennett is playing it well. I'm just saying the character was kind of rubbing me the wrong way in this song, but like, I think that she was playing a desperation that was written for the character for sure.
Yeah.
Let's listen to a little bit of I Need More.
This might have set you, Adam. It's giving me a little bit of Jenny Lind in Greatest Showman.
The opera singer?
In what way?
The scale of this is maybe the song where I was most like, I need more from this song. I need this to be at a scale that fits more of the costuming and the ostentatiousness of the new world.
Yeah.
And so it was the moment of realizing, oh my God, she's not even going to sing opera right now. A little bit for me.
Yeah. That it's like, oh my God, it's going to be kind of like a understated ballad type song.
Yeah. She's giving a lot of passion to this understated ballad is kind of the feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think the songs are all
kind of that same.
They all fit together. And they are a great album of songs.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's exactly what you want for a musical. So I agree with you there for sure. that I think they're all hitting similar energy. There's not like I'm not riding a wave through the music.
I would love to go on a nice little road trip and just listen to the soundtrack of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I just saw when I was looking through, I saw that they had actually recorded the stage production, the off-Broadway production.
Yeah. Can we listen to the off-Broadway production and see if it's different?
It's Jasmine Cephas Jones from Hamilton.
Top of the blank space behind the sun where you told me you'd meet me when everyone's gone. Tell me that nothing makes sense but the sound of my voice in your head when you lie on the ground. Make love make sense in the loveliest way. Simple and infinite in black sky. Turn me to war like your letters do, babe. Make me not know whether to laugh or cry. I need more. I need more. I need waves of desire to come over me and teardrops on the floor. Tell me why
Yeah, I need
your
more.
heart wants me
Yeah.
so.
That I will say though, having that vocal
Voice.
quality to it does create
Does-
a more of a passion in it that makes me more drawn into the song for sure.
Yeah.
The way it sounds, I bet the on stage it was more stripped down. So I think you do get more of the same.
It sounded like it was just a piano.
Yeah. And I was like, then maybe it
did
is like
say-
about.
The like visuals of the video said like the unofficial soundtrack or something. I wonder if this wasn't even like a fully released soundtrack or if it was just like a demo tape kind of thing. Because I think it's her YouTube channel. It looked like that it was on.
Yeah. The Duke sucks. We don't really need to talk about it, but my God, what a villain.
Classic, the judge in Sweeney Todd, the cardinal or whatever in Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, this is such Hunchback
Leopard.
vibes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is all I thought this whole movie was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's Hunchback.
I thought actually for a moment at the beginning that maybe he was going to be gay because of his companion.
valet, or whatever.
But no, definitely interested in violating women. So
He could be bi, Molly. Stop erasing bi people.
I'm sorry for erasing bi predators. You're right. I should really include that in the community.
He just threatened it. He didn't do anything. I will say I was actually surprised that he just didn't
Do it.
he stopped because they got married. I was like, oh, you really care about the sanctity of marriage, I guess. I was
Priest
shocked.
was there, so
The priest was there. It's true.
I think it was more of a I couldn't possibly extricate her from this situation in order to hide my intentions
yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And also Ben Mendelsohn, which like
Ben Mendelsohn.
I didn't realize until I read the name, and then I saw him through all the makeup. I was like, oh, that's him.
What should I know him from?
He's a Marvel. He was the villain in a few Marvel movies, and Star Wars.
And Star Wars.
A new Star Wars. I'm in the sequels now.
He's in Rogue One. So
That's
the
next one I'm
Astray.
watching.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Is your boyfriend a Star Wars? Is that why you're watching
He
Star
is.
Wars?
He is a Star Wars.
He has a very scary song called What I Deserve. And this is Insidious vibes. I hated this.
Yeah, truly, we were like, wow, the villain song really jumped
villain.
out. Yeah, this is villainous.
I deserve a little kindness. I deserve my due respect. I deserve to be beloved, just like everybody else. I deserve my place in heaven. I deserve an equal share. I deserve my rightful cut of everything, everywhere. God, Roxanne, am I asking for too much? Why should I have to beg for what everybody wants?
There's some weird rhythm thing happening in this film. And I think it's because they are recording live.
Right.
It's really bad in Peter Dinklage's
First song.
rap.
Yeah.
From that first number he does.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? Because I'm not going to say, we shouldn't do rap in musical theater. Of course you can do rap in musical theater.
Yeah.
But like, you got to do it well. You got to have a flow.
Yeah.
You got to have rhythm.
There's nothing worse than a rap that is just not
hitting.
They just don't know how to. Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough. It was real tough.
Again, with they were asking a lot of me with the character introduction. I really sunk into the characters a lot more about 30-ish minutes into the film.
Yeah. Are there any other songs that you want me to play real quick before we move on?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Do they sing at the end? I don't remember.
They have like a little like goodbye to each other.
To the reprise, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is some incredible. I just want to shout out a couple of my favorite shots in this movie. I've already talked about how much I loved the entire fight sequence on the stairs. It's so well shot. It's so well done. I promise it's worth it to watch even just that scene.
Yeah.
That is so good. The sequence when they have the shot where it's not even split screen, but it's Peter up front behind the column talking to Roxanne who's in the window.
Yes.
But they have both of them in focus and she's so distant and he's so close, but you can see both of their expressions while they talk to each other. Ooh, cinema. And then my last one is when he dies and he is laying on his back and she lays her head down and just stares at him. And she's like facing the camera dead on. He's facing straight up. So you can see his profile and you can see her like half of her face because the other half is covered. It's just, and they just last on that shot for so long. And they're both like crying. Oh, I was so incredibly moved by that because it was I felt so intimate with those characters in that moment that I was like, I'm really seeing something.
I want to talk about the ending. So I was also moved, again, Peter Dinklage, amazing actor. Mm-hmm. I'm also so mad at him for denying her so much time of being with somebody that she loves.
I know. 3 years, bitch.
Such a coward.
I know.
She spent these 3 years believing that the man that she loved was dead. To then find out 30 seconds before the man she actually loves actually dies that he was around for those 3 years. Her husband is stolen away from her, not even their wedding night, their wedding moment. Like literally as they're like kissing at the altar is when he gets sent away to the war. And so this woman never gets to be with anyone she loves. And it's all Cyrano's fault.
I totally felt that way. As soon as the title card show up and it said 3 years later, and then it's him just writing a bunch of letters in the room, that I was like, this was not how it's supposed to be. Cause you literally basically, you robbed her of being able to share at least like love to go on, because now it's like at your death's door, knowing that you can't go on anymore is when you finally have the courage to say it. And obviously it's melodrama. That's the point. But it was just like, it wrenched me so hard.
I think it's so interesting that you were so mad about because I mean, it is basically, it's not a 1-for-1 to Romeo and Juliet, but it's like, it's not star-crossed lovers. This is unrequited love, but it is like a two people deeply in love with each other and not able to, last through the ages of time or whatever. He sucks. I didn't think about it though when I was watching it.
It wasn't until really that time shift, because I had such a visceral reaction. I was like, oh, he shut in. Like he shut himself in. That was the lesson you got from watching Christian die for your love.
I mean, you get that because the moment Christian dies and he puts the note still in his coat so that it can be found and given to her, I was like, he's not going to take responsibility for this. Yeah. I mean, you start this movie and they hatch this plan to like write letters. And from the get-go, anybody with a brain would be like,
That's not him.
How are you going to see this? What's the end game? At what point does this stop? Because at some point, someone has to. There will be the reveal.
Yeah.
Well, when they get married, because that's the rules in France at this time. Is once you're married, that's it. You only get one.
You're done.
So she's
You don't
done.
write letters anymore.
You're not allowed to write any letters after you get married.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think
agree.
it's such a beautiful film.
I think, yes, it's a beautiful film. And I totally agree with you, Molly, that I almost wish that like if it didn't have the music or if it didn't have the singing aspect of the music, that I was like, this could have been it could have just been another, like
Different
crown jewel in Joe Wright.
Different music. Or just not a musical, but somehow we could have had some of the like dream sequences of the letters or something.
Yeah.
I would have loved it.
And I want to be clear. I'm on the Wikipedia page for the motion picture soundtrack that was released, and obviously some of these a few of them are like score music pieces, but most of it is songs. And this album is an hour and 18 minutes long. And the movie itself is only like 2 hours and 4 minutes. So you get plenty of music.
Plenty of music.
Yeah. So this is not one of those where it's like, we're really stretching the limits of the term.
Oh, yeah,
musical.
no.
Yeah, no 40
It's just
seconds.
The
No.
music
Here.
wasn't penetrating my brain. But again, I feel like actually after this conversation, I might go just listen to the soundtrack, and I feel like I might learn the music from just listening to it.
Yeah.
Isn't it so weird how it's like, they're not clicking together, but individually they click.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like every song I've played, I was like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
But like in the movie, I remember being like, I wish this was a little bit better.
Yeah. I wonder if I do listen to the album and start to like the music, and then I rewatch the movie, like expecting the songs, how it would be different.
Knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
Have you ever wanted something so badly you cannot breathe? Have you ever loved someone madly?
So this has a 85% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Pulled a couple of reviews. This is from Leah Greenblatt at Entertainment Weekly. She writes, Wright has a way of creating whole, sumptuous, self-contained worlds and projects like Anna Karenina and even the recent regrettable The Woman in the Window, and Cyrano betrays none of COVID-era filmmaking's now familiar limitations. His expansive colorblind casting and sun-drenched exteriors bring new richness to Erica Schmidt's 2018 theater piece. She also penned the script. Almost every shot is framed like a Renaissance painting, and the songs by members of indie rock stalwarts The National have an earnest orchestral tunefulness. The musical bits are worn lightly, less an anchor for the film than a sort of warm filigree placed on top. And the main cast mostly treats them that way, foregoing big gestures and jazz hands theatricality for a more easy kind of naturalism that serves the modesty of the melodies well. Of them all, Bennett has the closest thing to a real performer's voice, supple and intimate. What the movie never quite sells is its central love story. It must be the romance of the century because the characters can't stop saying or singing so, but the pair's supposedly crucial bond feels more like sweet friendship forced to conform to the worn contours of a fairy tale. The real draw is Dinklage with his mournful eyes and crooked smile. He's the tender, towering soul of Cyrano.
Is she basically saying that they don't have chemistry? Because I don't agree with that.
I couldn't tell if she's saying they don't have chemistry, but I agree with her saying the bond feels like sweet friendship because that's what I think the basis of their bond is.
Yeah.
I mean, just don't.
Most of the scenes that they're with each other, they consider each other friends. So that kind of makes sense.
It's just, RJ and I are covering a show right now for our other channel where we're watching a dating show. And there is this couple that I think I would love to see them be together because I think they're really warm and really sweet together, comforting. But the panel on the show always talks about like how they're like, oh, but there's no sparks. They don't flirt. They're not flirting. There's no chemistry. And it's like, no, there is chemistry, but it's more platonic. But like also saying that RJ and I are a couple that originally were just friends. So I have a very different view of like, how this happens for people than most do.
Also, I saw this interesting thing that talked about the difference between attraction and chemistry. And I thought it was like really helpful to me in dating. So like they talked about like compatibility is like the thing that we know is like, you know, you have like values that align and you have like similar lifestyles and like you can make this work over the long term. Right. And then we tend to think of like everything else as chemistry, but like chemistry is about like a back and forth banter and like an easiness of being with each other. And attraction is about like physically wanting to be with somebody. Right. And so like you can actually have like attraction and compatibility without necessarily having great chemistry, or have great chemistry without attraction. And that's what like a really great friendship is having really great chemistry without the attraction part. Right. So like, I think that they have really good chemistry, and it does sit more in a friend space for a lot of it. But that's because Roxanne believes that he's just a friend to her and that that's what he's interested in having. But I felt like there was some cute little smiles to him and some like knowing little things from her that like I totally bought that it could that quickly in the end, as she realized his true feelings,
could be romantic,
become romantic. Yeah.
I think that entire scene that you talked about where she reveals the like, he writes so much differently than you do, you're coded, blah, blah, blah. I think that entire walk they have together during that sequence, she's flirting with him the whole time. I
feel like she is. Yeah. I mean, in a contained way, because she thinks he's not interested in, or not like she's pining for him, but like there is something there for sure.
Yes. Okay. Peter DeBarge from Variety writes, the son of puppeteers,
which I did not know.
Wright instinctively understands how to use the proscenium, yet never confining himself to conventional frames.
That's it. That's how the like description, like feeling of like, I feel like I'm still watching a set or like a.
At the end of Act 1, when Cyrano is cornered by a mob of thugs, he orchestrates the ensuing fight scene in a single shot as Dinklage handily dispatches 10 adversaries. Later, when the character assumes his letter writing duties, Wright ingeniously layers shots of Roxanne and her two suitors to convey the complexity of this love triangle. And most importantly, in the famous balcony scene, the moment when Roxanne the moment when Rostand, the original writer, most clearly surpasses Romeo and Juliet, the movie cleverly devises a way for its smitten hero to address Roxanne directly. Brilliant though Schmidt's script may be, Cyrano would be the first to admit words can only get me so far. Wright's direction does the rest.
Shakespeare was like, now why did I get brought up?
He starts that review by being like, I have always thought that this is a better love story than Romeo and Juliet. That's how he starts his review. So this is how he
Shakespeare
wraps
can take a few licks. He's okay.
Yeah,
he's fine.
He's doing okay.
Guys, he's fine.
He's doing okay.
Right? RJ, I'm going to let you read these today because you pulled them.
Sure. Letterboxd, the average was 3.2. A lot of it was like,
I would have thought people would have liked this more on Letterboxd, actually.
There were a lot of like people who pined a lot for the National, like stands of the National, stands of Joe Wright films, and then people who were just like too plain. Nothing was going on. So yeah, very polarized. So these are the ones that I pulled. Eliza gave it 4 stars and said, you know what's better than sex? Receiving a letter. Aiden gave it no stars and said, Dear Evan Hansen with a poetry kink. I feel like it's a reach. She's reaching Your Honor. There was also not a lot of funny ones.
I mean, there are letters in Dear Evan Hansen, I guess.
Yeah. Zara gave it 3.5 stars and said, why did they simply not just be a thruple? Once again,
a bisexual couple of the year award.
A bisexual couple of the year. And it was interesting when Christian said, she says she loves me because of my soul and you're my soul. But soul is also not exactly... Like, it was an interesting choice of words, because if she had said, like, I love you because of your mind or because of your wit, you would be like, oh, she really does just love Cyrano. But your soul kind of sits somewhere in between those things, right? There's your mind, but it's also sort of just an essence of you. That, again, like, she did see something in him. Love at first sight is silly, but, like, there was something about him that drew her to him. So, like, I do think it's a combination of the two that she falls in love with.
she has that whole speech when he asks her what he's like or whatever. And she's like, well, he seems to be great. He's like, there's this whole world that she's constructed of him just from seeing him that one time. And she's like, I bet he's a really upstanding guy. I bet he's not a scaredy cat. I really like the way his breath smells, I bet. That was like the energy she was giving.
Because she literally saw him for 3 seconds. So what else was she going to say?
And then told him that a thief took his bag. I realized that it had to be that so that he had to leave the room so that he didn't see Cyrano through the rest of the thing.
And finally, Lily gave it 4 stars and said, in terms of 2021 musical performances, Peter Dinklage deserved the Oscar nomination that Andrew Garfield got for Tick, Tick, Boom. And I will not be taking any criticism on this point. Sis, Lily, let's rethink this.
I mean, I guess I can't give you feedback, but like you're wrong.
You're wrong. We won't give you criticism. You're just wrong.
Yeah. We just won't engage.
That was probably like.
And I really liked Peter Dinklage's performance in this. He's very good in this movie, but like, girl,
be serious.
We don't need to just post hot takes just so we can have
so we can get the likes.
Get the likes. Yeah.
Letterboxd. Yeah.
Molly, who this week is your MVP?
I mean, it's Dinklage.
She's
the
taking
obvious choice.
Dinklage.
I'm taking Dinklage. I'm taking him for me. Yeah, he's a really superb actor, and I think, everyone I think is doing a good job. I do not think I would have hit the emotional highs that I did in watching. Like the whole letter sequence with Christian. And I'm sorry, I can't say letter sequence. It's all letters. The sequence with Christian's death, I think I would not have felt the way that I felt without Peter Dinklage in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah. RJ?
I'm actually now thinking back and reflecting.
Please don't say Ben Mendelsohn.
No, I think I actually will give it to Erica Schmidt. I did actually like the way that the screenplay develops the story.
Yeah.
The characters are in it exactly where you need them to be. The arc of Christian kind of fulfilling his purpose in order to kind of like force Cyrano to finally, I really liked how the writing kind of played out the overall story.
I think the thing I'm most impressed with her about with this is that it does not feel like it was burdened to try to do any of the original like verse. Like it plays a little bit with it in that first sequence. And then she does not do it ever again in this movie. There is no rhyme scheme in the film. I kept waiting for something to happen, but I just feel like she was like, no, I think the love story is actually more interesting than just the like fun of like showing off the wit.
Totally.
Writing the rhymes. Yeah.
I think she sprinkled enough of the rhymes and what's where it almost sounds like a rhyme, but it's not. What is that called? A slant rhyme. There's enough of those that you were still evoking kind of like, oh, I'm listening to verse.
Yeah.
Good duo there. And I do think our argument of like, maybe they kind of felt really like their lived in experience as a couple kind of like help feed the what we were seeing in the movie for sure.
I'm gonna go with Joe Wright. When he's right, he's right. But wait, I mean, it's weird, right? Because we've discussed that maybe this was too big for the music, and technically the music was what he was working with. So I mean, it could be his fault.
Yeah.
That this doesn't totally work, but it works for me enough so that I'm deciding that he's my MVP.
It feels weird to tell someone you made your movie too beautiful, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I really was taken with this film in a way that I was really not expecting to be. I thought it was gonna be good, but I was very charmed by this movie, and I would easily watch this again and be like, this is a good time. I don't recommend it.
I think, especially if you like period pieces and presumably like musicals as you're listening to this, I would say give it a watch. Go in with like not super high expectations, and then you'll probably enjoy yourself. I think also with the stripped back thing, I feel like I've referenced this movie before in this podcast. This movie called Bright Star, which is about Keats, I think, is about like an English poet. And I love that movie because it's like really beautiful but really simple visuals. And I feel like if that director had done this movie, it would have been amazing. like a period piece with like very like embracing the simplicity of a historical period could have really worked. But dang it, it's hard to be mad about the beautiful shots that Joe Wright puts together.
Yeah. Totally.
The shot when they're just like the army is just walking and men keep like falling. And you can see
and then
the guns.
You just see someone walking in to replace
and then going into the
basically.
place. Oh.
Yeah.
And this movie is not about war at all. Like
Nah.
it really isn't. It takes a detour into a war for like 20 minutes and then we're back into the regular story. But like that sequence is so effective. It was, yeah, it was very, I liked this movie a lot. Molly, what is your closer this week?
What an excellent question. And I'm being fed what to say by someone around the corner.
Just give a moment until ChatGPT creates it for us. And maybe we should do like, what
historical nobleman that we all know and love should we write a musical about?
Should we
mythologize?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah. A true villain. Let's do it.
You know what? I don't even know enough details about what the Marquis de Sade was actually like into and about
I
to
think
know
predatory territory.
Was he a true predator and villain, or is he a more complicated bisexual predator? I don't know.
And we really need to listen to those voices.
We need to listen to voices of bisexual predators. So
this is the Ampliverse. We got to amplify the universe.
Don't drag
RJ's
the company.
podcast.
Don't drag the company, girl.
No, I think
nice.
I bet that there's something interesting and you could write a cool musical about the Marquis de Sade. So yeah, let's say a historical figure that you want to bastardize their legacy through a musical in some way.
Historical. I mean, Joan of Arc, I guess.
Yeah.
It is surprising there's not a Joan of Arc music.
Make it like a rock opera. I feel
it's got to be like Carrie.
I was going to go in a Les Mis direction, but I guess we have Les Mis, so it would just feel like a knockoff of Les Mis.
Yeah, give me like a rock opera, and like, I want the team to be like all women. Like I want like a
waitress.
Oh, I want Joan of Arc, but I want it to be like, I don't want there to be like an ambiguity of the audience is supposed to even be like, was she really visited by an angel? Like I want it to be very like, she was visited by an angel.
And here's
the angel's name is Steve. Here's his name tag.
Yes.
Like I want it to be like that.
Okay.
Like clear, like sketch comedy in that?
No. I just mean like, I don't want it to be like she comes into a room and says she was visited by an angel, and then you're supposed to leave the thing and be like, was she just doing this all along?
Yeah.
Honestly, I do think Saints, would be a really interesting concept for like a musical with like music. Well, like a specific saint,
like
and
an Assassins style musical, but with various Catholic saints.
Wait, Molly, but then the music.
Am I smart? Oh my god,
the music. I could see the music being very Adam Gattel, like very Light in the Piazza, like very.
Okay.
It's almost operatic, but not quite.
Light opera.
Yeah. I think there's something there, and it could be saints that were visited by an angel. So it could be like a Anne, Elizabeth, the kids at the Lord's, the kids at the little creek.
The miracles.
Yeah. That could be
it could be Touched by an Angel. It's a musical.
It could be the TV show.
This is absolutely not what we were supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I need to
pick a historical figure.
Although the other benefit of Adam's or of RJ's Joan of Arc pick is that we could do yet another musical set in France. So,
oh wow! Just pick another French.
Pick another French nobleman.
I am shocked that there is not a musical about that one guy.
Yes.
Oh,
do you know who I mean?
Yeah. Did he do like a thing that was?
What did he?
Okay.
Wait.
He needs me to stop the bit so we can look it up.
Did he do the thing, or was the thing done to him?
Oh, when that thing happened in his vicinity, I was
Salome?
shook.
Salome?
No. Starts with an R. it doesn't help to do Russia.
Rasputin?
Rasputin.
And that was said in sync, knowing that there is a internet delay. It was still in sync.
Rasputin.
Yeah.
There's been like songs about Rasputin. Mm-hmm. Rasputin versus Greatest Love Machine.
Yeah. No, I think you're right though. I think that could be a good setup for a musical.
A good anti-hero musical. Yeah. A real Wicked.
And they have to
actually tell his backstory and be like, actually, he was really a good guy the whole time, but we've just been told wrong.
Yeah.
Let's story you never
rehab
knew.
his character. Do you know what the world is really hungry for right now?
When I say it should be Wicked, I'm not kidding. It should just be the poster where it's the king and then Rasputin whispering into his ear.
Because you know what people are really into right now is apologists for Russians. That's like really what we're into is
It's in on one side of the aisle for sure. Oop.
Wow, way to.
Did you want to talk about politics some more?
Nope.
As people who don't know any of these songs, I think we are just going to end this podcast today saying we wish Kate Middleton healing. I'm not even going to include any of what we talked about leading up to it. I'm just going to go straight to.
Oh my God.
And you can't be mad. Why would you be mad about that? Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgaysmoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
A star is born, and in its splendor and deep emotional fire, in its shining beauty and wonderful heart, a new era in motion picture achievement is also born. You will see it in the richness and magnificence so lavishly poured into every scene. You will feel it in the countless moments of deep human understanding. You will hear it in the rousing tempo of its great music. And you'll know it when you experience the joy and jubilation of Judy Garland as the star. And you'll never forget James Mason as Norman Maine, clinging desperately to the only real love he'd ever known. There's Jack Carson, Charles Bickford, all bringing inspired life to a story that only life itself could have inspired.
You don't know what it's like to see somebody you love crumble away in front of your eyes, bit by bit, day by day. I hate myself because I failed to.
You got it, just like you dreamed it.
Oh, no.
I've got more. So much more. It's a new world I see. A new world for me. This is a story of a little girl searching, searching, searching. For she knows somewhere there's a someone who's a someone for her. This is a story. You wanna have bells that'll ring. You wanna have songs that'll sing. You want your sky of baby blue. You gotta have me go with you. For it started many years ago when I was born in a trunk in the Princess Theater in Pocatello,
Discovering voices, building worlds, the Ampliverse.